Hey, peace and love, beautiful people. Welcome to Unbreakable Souls. I am Gene Williams, one half of the dynamic duo. In order to do this show, I couldn't do it without my brother, Coach G. Welcome, Coach G, Gary Newsom, into the room. Round of applause. Round of applause.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's
Yes,
up? How you doing, my
seems like a
man?
month. Man, this seems like a month of Sundays.
It has been, man.
Yeah, I
I
know.
know.
It's
So
crazy.
yeah, just out the gate to the audience, we just have had some life,
Yeah,
and we're
right.
sorry for missing, but we're back on track, ready to get rolling. So,
Yeah.
you doing well, man?
Doing pretty good, man. Just a busy week. How about yourself?
Yeah, just a busy week this week,
Yeah,
but again, just trying to pivot out of that and continue to move forward in life. So it's
right.
all good.
Amen to that, brother.
Well, man, we got some good stuff. We're recapping because I know we've missed recapping Unbreakable Souls series on trauma,
Right.
and we've got a special guest with us tonight or today, and we're gonna just do some recap on trauma, and then next week we're planning to have a panel discussion. So we'll have other people here with us to kind of go through this wrap up of trauma, and then we're going to move to some new topics. So, um,
Yeah.
you have anything to say, bro, before we get started, or?
Man, it's crazy. Like after doing this series on trauma, it's amazing how you realize how much trauma like you experience not only in the past, like currently. It's like, wow. So that reaction was based off of this, traumatic
Right.
experience I experienced as a child or as a young adult or something like that. I was had a little situation the other day. Had a it wasn't an argument, but it was like a disagreement with my girlfriend. Uh, and I realized that like I was triggered. You know,
Ah,
I was like, wow, I was really triggered by that. Okay, so I had to go back and apologize. And I was triggered. My apologies. It's then the third. But it's amazing how like talking about trauma, like now
allows you to see.
exactly right.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, we're going to talk about that when we get to relationship then.
Oh yeah, let's go for
Okay.
it.
So, yeah, but without further ado, I want to bring in our guest. Mark, could you bring in AL Johnson for me, please?
Mark, are you there? There we go.
There he is. What's
Hey
up, my
Hey,
man,
what's going
brother?
on, fellas? How
how
you
you
doing?
doing, brother? Nice to meet
Ha-
you.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
so for our audience, this is AL Johnson. I'm going to let him do um, a overview. This is a mighty man of God, a man of business, just a mighty man. Period. We're in a stage play together, and
Yeah.
we've talked extensively about how significant our yes was. Him saying yes to the
Mhm.
play, me saying yes to the play wasn't all just about the play, but it was about the connection that happened between he and I. And now we are brothers.
Right.
And this is one of my boys. And I got to be a part of one of his events today. And man,
That's
did they put on a show. I
right.
was trained, I was educated, equipped, and healed today in the space of trauma. So go
Yeah.
ahead, man. Take it away. Share your heart. Tell us about you, who you are, what you got going on, and just take some time to bless us.
Tell us
Yes,
about the
sir.
business, brother.
I am A.L. Johnson. I'm the founder of a 501c3 organization called Elevating Men. It is our belief that our families and our communities follow the lead of the man, good or bad, or indifferent. And so it's our job to create strong men so that we can build strong families and in turn build stronger communities and really create that connection. We do that through a couple of things. One is teaching men how to forgive themselves, forgive their past, the mistakes that they've made, and forgive those who have hurt them. Because until you forgive, one of the things that we have as men is trust issues.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
holler if you hear me. Like most men, we have trust issues. We don't trust other men. We don't trust ourselves to make the proper decisions in our own lives. We don't trust
Right.
our women. We don't trust anybody.
Right.
And without trust, we can't connect. And so when we
Right.
say that we want to have a better community, I like to tear apart words, and so community is common unity,
Right, right,
and
right.
we cannot unite if we don't trust. And so those
Mm.
are two things that we really teach is forgiveness and connection, so that we can really make change in our world. Um, we started in 2020 after the death of my father, and so he passed
Mm.
away due to COVID. And like a lot of men who grew up without their father in the home, we say certain things, right? So the neighborhood that I grew up in, most of the men they didn't have fathers, and we would be outside playing basketball, shooting the breeze, talking our stuff or whatever. And I remember all of my friends at some point saying something similar to what I'm getting ready to say. Man, if something happened to my mom, I don't know what I would do. If something happened to my dad, yeah, you know, oh
I'll
well, he
get
ain't
over
here
it.
anyway, right?
Uh,
And so here I
That's
am,
tragic. That's so tragic.
absolutely. And so here I am in my late 30s at the time. I'm 41 now, and I was notified of my father being put on a ventilator. By the time that I got notified, he was only breathing about 30% on his own. And so
Oh wow.
the call wasn't, that he'll be okay. The call was that you should prepare and start
come
making
now.
changes. And so within a week of that phone call, he passed away. He transitioned.
Wow.
And
We're
the
sorry for
emotions
your
that I
loss, brother.
thank you.
Yeah, definitely
Thank you.
sorry for your loss.
Absolutely. The emotions that I felt at that time were unexpected because, again, from a little boy, I was saying, hey, if something happens to my dad, he ain't been around anyway.
Right.
It's not going to hurt. It's not going to affect me. And it was the exact opposite. And what I found through that, that was my own form of trauma. Because if we look at the definition of trauma, it's literally a distressing or a disturbing experience. And so there are different levels of that, and trauma is different for everyone. For me, my trauma was the disturbing thought that I would never get the answers to the questions that I always needed.
Yeah,
Ooh,
And so
yeah, yeah.
wow.
Say
Wow.
and
that. Say that, brother.
it was just
Wow.
knowing that, there were certain things that I always wanted to know, certain things that I wondered, why weren't you there? Why did you leave? What were you like? What was going on with you? I wanted to know these things. And I realized I would never really get that closure.
Yeah.
And so
Wow. That's
um,
powerful.
I went through a period of what I would call depression, which again, depression is on a spectrum.
Right.
Hmm.
Right.
Clinical depression, there's micro depression, it's depression.
Right.
And so I was in this depressed state. And there was a point where I started talking to people about my issues and about how I was feeling. Well, one of the people that I got an opportunity to speak with was one of my uncles that I lost connection with. I hadn't seen him since I was like 6 or 7 years old. I just remembered
Mm.
seeing some pictures of him and that sort of thing. He reached out after my father passed, and we
Hmm.
were talking, and I just broke down crying. And I was like, man, I was like, he was like, what's wrong? What's going on? And the horrible part is, and I have to back up a little bit, when I talk about how men don't connect, we don't trust each other, we seclude ourselves and all those things, that was my father. He was the epitome of seclusion. And
Mm.
so he didn't have a very close relationship with his own brothers and sisters to the point
Man.
I remember making some of the phone calls saying that he had transitioned. I had one aunt that was like, you sound like you crying. What you crying for? Well, hey, man, forget him. I mean, it was literally like
Wow.
that,
I feel that. I
call
feel
Wow.
that.
after call, right?
Right. I feel that.
But one of my uncles, he said, he was like, let me tell you about your dad a little bit. And I found out after his passing that he had a traumatic childhood.
Hmm.
At one point, he was left on the porch of his stepmother.
Wow.
So that stepchild, he was a literal stepchild. My
Oh
Right.
yeah.
grandfather had uh, a couple dozen children, and so just imagine how
Wow.
thin he was
Wow.
spread. Although he was a
Right.
good man, he was in all their lives. But it's impossible to give a child the one-on-one time and
Right.
attention that they need.
Right.
And so he couldn't pour into me what was never poured into him. And
Right.
so I
Right.
began to understand. There was one thing that always intrigued me about his life. My father, believe it or not, after everything that I'm telling you, was a pastor. And
Oh.
yeah, he was a
Whoa. So
pastor.
That's nuts.
And so,
there's you combining childhood trauma with church trauma.
Right.
yeah, church hurt. I mean,
Right.
and yeah, that's something we could definitely get into.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, but I'll share this with you. I'll share this with you. So one of the most traumatic moments as it relates to my father was after he became a pastor. And so we went years without speaking. I hadn't seen him. My closest aunt to me is his sister, even though I grew up with my mother. And so at one point she said, "Hey, we need to go see your dad. We need to go see him." I was like, "Why?" She seemed very excited. She said, "He's a preacher now." I was like, "Get out of here," because I knew some things about my dad. Just put it like that.
Right,
I was like,
right,
there is no way he's
right.
a preacher, right? And so she was like, "No, no, no! I'm telling you, like we really need to go see him." So he had these recorded cassette tapes of him preaching. He popped one in, and when I tell you, I was mesmerized because my father was
Wow.
a speaker, and so I'm just like, "Whoa, he must have changed." Guess what? I think he's getting ready to be in my life again. So yes, let's go. Let's hop on the highway. Let's go. We drive to Louisiana. That's where he was. He had a nice sized church, and so I'm sitting there in the audience with my aunt. He's preaching, he's tearing it up. I mean, and I'm just in complete awe because, again, I hadn't seen him. I was a teenager at this time. I was about 13, 14 years old. I hadn't seen him in years. So I'm just looking like, that's my dad. Wow. Wow. And I'm looking for this connection. I'm looking for this reconciliation. I'm thinking, after this, I'm getting ready to get the apology and we're going to catch up and we're going to connect for real.
Right,
Right.
right.
So at the end of the church service, he had this
Oh,
thing where he would come up front, he would have everyone stand up, and they would come around and shake his hand as part of the exit, as part of the closing of the service. And so he had me and my aunt stand up. He said, I want to introduce you all to somebody. This is my son. This is my aunt. I tell you, I stuck my chest out. I'm proud. I'm like, yeah, that man that was up there just tearing this
Right.
crowd up.
That's my daddy.
That's my dad. That's my dad.
Yeah.
And everyone proceeds to come around and shake my hand. I heard at least 50 times, "Reverend Johnson, man, look at your boy. He looks just like you. I didn't even know you had a son."
Wow.
And so I heard that the first time, and it was just like a dagger. And then I heard it again, and it was another dagger, and
Right,
again
wow.
right.
and again and again. And so here I am, a teenage boy standing in front of the church, shaking hands, fighting back tears because nobody even knew I existed. Right?
Wow.
And so when I say that uh, I didn't understand my father until after he passed away, I truly mean that. Having that conversation with my uncle, I was actually able to let go of a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
was able to forgive.
Wow.
And actually, prior to his passing, about 2 years prior to his passing, I met a friend that shares the same name as me. His name is Andrew. And he said, he was like, "Man," he said, "how's your relationship with your dad?" He's just an inquisitive person.
Mm-hmm.
And he had never heard me really speak of my father. And so I was like, he lived out of town, blah, 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 just kind of told him the story. And he said, "Have you forgiven him?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Have you really forgiven him?"
Right.
I said, "Well, I'm not mad at him." He was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Have you forgiven him?"
Mhm.
He just
Yeah,
kept
Right.
pushing that button.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized at the time that I truly didn't understand what forgiveness means. Right.
that's
Yeah.
Um,
powerful.
Yep.
forgiveness, there's a letting go, but there's also the giving of acceptance.
Right.
And I
Right.
never gave him that acceptance until a couple years before I gave him a call. I said, "Hey, Dad, I don't know if you think that I'm mad at you or I'm upset with you, but I just want you to know that I forgive you for not being there and whatever it was." And my father was kind of a proud man, and he was like, "Oh, hey, yeah, yeah, you fine, whatever, whatever." And so there was no real connection in that conversation. I later found out that through one of my sisters that my father went to his grave feeling that I still had anger and resentment towards him.
Oh no.
Um,
Really.
but I did, in fact, provide him with as much acceptance and forgiveness as I could at the time with the knowledge that I had.
Right.
That's so
The,
good, man.
yeah, the true forgiveness came when I had that conversation with my uncle, and he was able to share with me parts of my father's life that I wasn't aware of, and I
Yeah.
was able to accept it. And then I found myself at the same crossroads that some men face, which is, do I stay or do I go? And through that shared experience, although I made a different decision and I'm in all my children's lives, I was able to see through his eyes for a brief moment. And that's when I really forgave him and was able to cut that loose. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
uh,
that's so good.
Man, and so in opening up and sharing my story, men around me started opening up. And so when I talk about the connection piece, what I found is that a lot of times we don't open up first. That's the thing with
Right.
men. I said, well, men don't open up. Men, no, a lot of times men don't open up first.
Right.
But once they see that, hey, it's safe to open up, there's a little bit of a transparency from someone else. You can't get us to shut up, just like me right now.
Right.
Well, no. It's real talk, bro. Because
Mhm.
Yeah.
when you go first, and it's all about. We on this show, we're all about first transparency, being the
Right.
first one and leading in transparency. It
Yes.
opens the floodgates because now we're talking to that 10-year-old, that 5-year-old boy who never had a voice. That
Right.
now, okay, I've got a strong man in front of me who is being vulnerable, and now that's celebrated in his
Right.
eyes because you become an instant. I won't say idol, but
It's like a
Inspiration.
hero.
right. So you can step into a space that you've been dying to step into
Yeah.
before. So it's just the freedom that comes from that you get to release now, that silent 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 8-year-old, 15-year-old, whatever, even 20-year-old. So
Yeah.
what an introduction,
Yeah.
audience, to
Yeah.
A.L. Johnson. And he took
Yeah.
us right into our first point today
Right.
was
I want to
childhood
say,
trauma. Go ahead.
yeah. I just want to say, and thank you for telling the story. Like,
Oh,
it's crazy
absolutely.
how similar, like, all of our stories are. Um, like,
I was
there's a
just
lot
about
of
to
not,
touch on that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, not having our fathers in our lives. You know, I know I felt inadequate a lot, and that was one of the things I wanted to, because I felt personally like my dad just didn't like me. Um, yeah, yeah. I felt like he didn't like me, and when we actually did talk, it's like he was never like your dad. He wasn't really. He didn't allow himself to be vulnerable. So it's like, so I'm closed off. Like I don't, I don't trust you. It seems like you don't trust me, and I don't hear from you often. So I don't think you really care.
Right.
So I know that that's something that we all personally experience, and then like you said, the piece of like getting a story about his life, you realize that he's a hurt person. You know, pretty much is continuing a generational curse unknowingly, and that's the thing. A lot of times it's not intentional. That's the thing I have to keep telling myself. It's not intentional. He didn't have the lessons that we have on this side.
Ooh,
The
ooh,
information that we have
ooh.
to help process and unpack trauma, and then and then start to heal from that point. They didn't have those skills. They didn't have men like us who allow ourselves to be vulnerable enough to, hey, I've been through this, and then he opened his arms up and exposed his heart. So I'm gonna do the same. We don't get
Right.
that. We usually get this,
Right.
So yeah, just that. Just
Well,
just
and
you. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, you just hit on something. Especially as black and brown men, we have to think of the trauma that our parents experienced, not
Come on.
just familial trauma, but societal
Right.
trauma.
Right.
Right.
And so,
Exactly. So true.
Which
I imagine we're all within maybe a decade of each other, and so our parents. I
I'm
mean,
43.
I'm 41, and
Right.
so and my
53.
father, yeah, he grew up at deep south, and so
Right.
he actually remembered real segregation,
Yeah.
and the feeling of being
Ooh.
inferior, not just in the home, but being inferior in
Right.
society as well. And so the walls that they had built up around them is like
Yes.
a completely different level from what we've
Right.
experienced in our lifetime. And so yeah, that trauma runs deep.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's powerful. Both of you touched on that fathers, we set such a high expectation of fathers. Mothers, we just accept mama. Mama can be a crackhead and
And we still love it
we
regardless.
gonna love her. But for whatever reason, we put these expectations on fathers.
Yep.
And both of you touched on the point that, and it was a pivotal point for me that gave me freedom, and it was what ushered in the highest level. You talked about multiple levels of forgiveness. Well, what ushered in
Right.
the highest level of forgiveness for me was realizing that my father could not give me what was not given to him. That's not fair.
Yeah. Right.
To have an expectation of a person to be all these different things, and that was never delivered to him. So, like in
Right.
my example, my grandfather was kind of more my father. But when I
Mhm.
heard my father's story, it killed him, destroyed him to watch his father, my grandfather, be the man for me that he wasn't for my father.
Oh man. Yeah,
Imagine
that's
that.
deep.
So I'm,
That's
yeah,
deep.
that man that wrecked me. That all the things that he watched my grandfather do for me, how he loved on me and doted on me, and all the accolades, and I'm proud of you, I love you, all this stuff, and never did that to his son. So now his
Mm.
son
Woo. That's deep.
has to watch. And then on top of that, the trauma that came from that, my grandfather was a smoker and a drinker, got drunk one night, called my father to him when he was a child, and threw up on him in his drunkenness.
Wow.
Literally, it was almost intentional from the way my father explained it, because he wasn't, his older brothers were drinkers, and my father, just for whatever reason, the calling on his life, he
Mhm.
wouldn't indulge in alcohol. So I was saying he's probably like a teenager. Well, kind of to mock him, my grandfather threw up all over him, in his face, all over him.
Wow.
So that marked him for a lifetime.
Yeah.
Lifetime. So basically, him being traumatized by that, him watching constant trauma, secondary trauma, watching his father, his beloved, because he honored his dad. I watched him respect and honor his dad, but then watching him dote on his son. So he
Yeah.
took out all that anger, all that rage, all that frustration
On you.
out on me.
Man.
Wow.
I
You
mean,
know,
That is
wow.
I
There was
saw you
something that
light
you
up on that,
said.
AL.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I love these conversations. I really
yeah.
do. You talked about acceptance of the mother versus the father, and I
Oh
have a
man.
theory on that.
Woo.
And so this is just
Mm.
my theory. There's nothing to back it up.
Right,
But
right,
I really believe that the reason that we're able to accept mother is because we see her as the weaker vessel. And here's the thing. We always say that man is the stronger vessel. It tells us that in the Bible. We're
right.
Right.
physically stronger. You can tell by our bone structure and just
Right.
physicality that we're stronger. I believe that that strength also plays into our emotions, but in the opposite way. And
Yes.
so when we say that, men are strong, does that mean that we're so strong emotionally? Or does that mean that when we feel things, we feel it at a higher intensity?
Right
Hmm.
there. Right there.
So that's where men we have more rage. We
Right.
express anger in a different way.
Right.
It's not
Right.
that we're stronger emotionally, like we're bulletproof. It means that we feel so intensely, and so that's yeah.
And then to add to your point, that we feel it at a higher level, I'm in 100% agreement with this, but I think y'all gonna agree with this. The stigma that it then placed on a man that you can't express that. So
Right.
imagine, audience, that as a man, you have this heightened sense of emotion, but then there's no escape for it. Where does it go?
And we're not given the tools to properly and constructively
Channel
process
it.
those feelings.
Mhm.
So we're angry up to here and don't know what to do with it. So we either suppress it or we explode on other people around us because we don't know how to process this stuff. We're not taught. Women are allowed to be emotional.
Allow that space.
It's oh they're emotional creatures. I mean you hear it all the time. Women are emotional creatures. So when a man who feels emotion or expresses emotion, then he's deemed feminine, and that's just insane.
That's a
Mhm.
Just
human
insane.
emotion. We all feel it.
Thank you across the board.
Divinely given. Divinely
Yeah,
given.
across the
Absolutely.
board. Man,
And so like when we talk about the forgiveness piece, because I just feel like with trauma, we can't address trauma, we can't get past trauma if we don't learn forgiveness and how to let go of things.
yeah.
And so there was a point in time that I actually lived in New Mexico, right?
Oh,
And
Nice,
every year
nice.
they have this festival. It's a like hot air balloons. That's like a big thing down there. Hot air
Yeah,
balloons. And
right.
so, I saw the festival, and I'm telling you, like, there's hundreds of hot air balloons in the sky at once.
Wow.
It's amazing to see. It's beautiful. It's
Right.
beautiful. But there was one thing that I noticed, and so I sold advertising, and so I sold advertising to one of the companies that did the hot air balloons, and so I was able to see how they put them together and how they rig them up and all of this. And so you will see a hot air balloon and the fire is lit in it,
Mm-hmm.
and the balloon swells and it creates
Mm-hmm.
this pressure that allows it to rise. Well, you will notice that some are able to rise much higher than others. And if you
Mm-hmm.
look at the ground, you will see that some of them are what's called tethered. And so you'll see a
Mm-hmm.
rope
Right,
that's
right,
connected
right,
to it
right,
and it's nailed down into the ground.
right.
Those are the things that we have to let go because a
Mm-hmm.
tethered balloon can go a few hundred feet. As soon as
Right.
you untether it,
Come on.
it takes off. It
Yep.
takes off. And so a lot of men have all of this like pent up like potential and ability and
Yep.
dreams and hopes and all of these things that we really could do, but we're tethered by our past. We're tethered by
Yeah.
unforgiveness. We're tethered by lack of trust. And
Right.
so, I just love the conversation around trauma because if we get to the root of it, a lot of times it's based on unforgiveness and not being able to let go.
Right.
Okay, so I'm gonna pivot here a little bit. I want to stay in the same space. I know we got a lot to cover today, but let's stay in the childhood trauma range. Long-term effects of childhood trauma on mental health and well-being. So here you have three men who grew up with childhood trauma and really at the hands of our fathers. But what are the long-term effects of childhood trauma on the grown man, his mental health and well-being? What does that look like? Because it's been unprocessed. And for some of us, like my example was in 2018, it started to unravel. And then when my
Right.
father died in 2019, that was the item that broke the dam. And then all this 50 years now of pent in trauma came out. Not like a hose, but like a fire hydrant.
Right.
So what you guys, AL, Jane, help me here. What are the long-term effects of childhood trauma on today's man, the grown man, mental health and his well-being?
I would say when you can't trust, I have to go back to that trust
Yeah.
piece
Right.
because
Okay.
Right.
that is most men. Like that Drake song, "No
Mm-hmm.
New Friends," like
Right.
no new
Right.
friends,
Right.
no new
Right.
friends.
Right.
And as long as you're closed, you can't accept.
Right.
Just like they say, so we say no new friends. I believe that everything that we want as human beings is in possession of another human being.
Mm-hmm.
You just got
If
to
you
reach
want
out.
money,
Right.
like if you're starting a business, you want money. Where's the money going to come from?
Right.
Other
Right.
human beings. If you
Right.
want food, unless you're a farmer and you're growing it yourself, there's another human being on the other
Right.
end of that process.
Right.
And
Right.
so, as long as we have a lack of trust that keeps us closed off to other human beings, we'll never be able to get what we want. And so, trust is like a huge issue, and especially
Right.
among Black and brown men, we do not trust each other. The other
Mm-mm.
thing is, once we make so many bad decisions, right? So say you didn't go to the right college, you didn't start off in the right career, you didn't get the relationship thing right off the bat. You've had a couple heartbreaks and trauma
Right.
in those areas. You reach a point, and I believe that this is really the impetus for the midlife crisis. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know which one. I don't know how to go left or right anymore because I don't
Right.
trust my own decision making.
Yep.
Ooh,
By
that's
that
a
age,
dangerous place to be.
yeah, you've started and stopped so many times. You've
Right.
made commitments to yourself that you've broken.
And not
Just
fulfill
like
them.
there's the
Yeah.
Bible verse that says all men are liars. I used to have a problem with that, right? Because it's really all mankind, male and female.
Right,
And
right.
like most men, I saw my mom as a saint. It's still do to this day. Like you would have a hard time convincing me my mom ever did anything wrong, right? And so I'm like, I got a problem with that verse because my mom doesn't lie. She's an honest person. And now as a mature man, I'm always seeking to be honest, but when you really think about it, how often do we lie to ourselves?
Yes.
How
Every
many
day.
times do oh, I'm
Every day.
okay. No, I'm not.
No, you're
And your,
not.
your
Yeah.
mind knows it. And so I
Right.
believe that, we get to a point where our subconscious, we have our conscious and our subconscious. Our subconscious is very strong. And so our subconscious catches all the lies that we tell ourselves.
Right.
And
Right.
that's what creates that indecision because now you technically don't believe you.
Right.
Like, oh man, I'm getting ready to get out here. I'm gonna kill it. I'm about to start.
Mm,
But you don't. Your subconscious is like, I
right.
know you're not about to do anything. Right. And so now you're not just fighting the external elements, you're
Right.
fighting and
I know
struggling within
yourself.
yourself
Yeah.
Right.
because of that lack of trust.
Yeah.
Mm. What about you, Gene?
I was gonna say, so I'm gonna just kind of add on to that. Like it
That
really
was so
creates,
rich.
right, exactly. It creates a schizophrenic being where you have a world that you exist within around certain people, but then the real you is something totally different, and the connection never happens because you can't be yourself, in society around people because there's an anxiety that if I show vulnerability, then I'm shown as weak. We can't be weak because men are supposed to be strong. So you have this person that you're at home broken, but when you go out into the world, you show a different version of yourself. And neither one of them are real, really, because you can't tune into either one deeply because you told yourself so many lies that you don't really. Who am I really? So you start to lose the foundation of who you are through just having a lot of childhood trauma. It makes you not trust yourself, and then when you don't trust yourself, it causes a lot of anxiety, which causes a lot of physical issues, you know, and mental and emotional issues long term. So, like you said, you don't trust people, and it's an avalanche of chaos.
And then I would add one last thing is when you tie it into the childhood trauma piece, you know, who is supposed to love you more than your parents?
Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah,
Like they brought you into this world, right? Like, I mean, it's God, but through these two
right,
people, that's
right,
you brought into this world. And so, if trust is broken at that point,
right,
how do you trust anybody else? Like the people that are supposed to
right.
love me the most, the man who was supposed to love me the most, abandoned me. So how do I
Yeah,
trust you? How do I become your friend, like your true friend, and open up to you when
right,
I couldn't even trust him?
Right.
Um,
right.
Because those are your
you know,
pillars. Those are your
exactly.
The
foundational
foundation,
pillars.
yeah,
Right. And if
foundation,
you, I mean, it's just like a house. The pillar, the foundation, the house falls, everything, it doesn't matter how
right,
beautiful or elegant it is, it all falls. So
right.
You
that's
want to get really deep. You want to get really deep.
go
Let's
ahead,
go.
bro. Dive
So
in.
so we get to this point. So our parents have broken our trust at a very young age. Generally, when trust is broken, one of the things that it does is it makes you feel unloved. So when we hit our adolescent years, what's the first thing that we do? We're looking for love through a
Hmm.
woman.
Are
Right.
you bro, are you like in tune with me right now? Because I'm ready to pivot into relationship trauma
Relationship
because
trauma,
Man,
right?
it's
childhood and
divine.
I mean
It,
it's the
it's
Oh
next
Lord.
divine.
it's
Oh
the
It,
next
Lord.
logical step for discussion. So continue. You move right in.
no, because that's where it starts. I was talking to one of my sons, and I was like, "Listen, don't start looking for love too soon." The reason I say that is because you're an adolescent, she's an adolescent. The likelihood of you all staying together from that point through the rest of your life
Slim
is
to
slim to
none.
none.
Right, right.
Hmm.
Slim to
Slim
none.
to
And
none.
so you go from parental heartbreak to getting your heart broken by your first love, right? And so by the time you reach adulthood, you only need one or two other heartbreaks, whether that be career wise, another
Right.
woman, a family member that broken trust, a friendship that's gone wrong. You don't trust anybody by the time you're an adult. Like trust is
Right.
out the window, and now you have to start trying to rebuild as an adult, which is hard to do.
So
And
what does
that's
that
also
look
one of
like? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and that's how a lot of brothers and sisters become like um, players and bounce around from relationship to relationship because again they have no foundation of trust. They have no foundation of love. So, like you said, they've been heartbroken so many times. So that foundation is is in tatters by the time you get 25 or so. So yes, like I want the love, so I'll reach out to people to get love. But then when I start to feel love, I'm like, oh no, yeah,
Because you don't
Yes,
understand what love is.
exactly.
Because
You haven't experienced it at all firsthand.
well, you've experienced it, but you've experienced it through the lens of dirty lenses.
Right,
You go through life looking at, there's no rose colored glasses on. You look at everything from a filter
right,
of trauma and pain. So
right,
every
exactly.
experience, anything that's new that even, I mean, how many times have you entered into relationships or been in a relationship and you realize, oh my God, this is dysfunctional. This is not working out for me.
Oh
But
yeah,
that's all you know.
is
That's
dysfunction.
all you know. Dysfunction has become like your arm, your hands, and to remove yourself from that is literally to cut my hand or my arm off.
Yeah,
And then let's say you do get out of that relationship and the Lord sends a good person. That could be a romantic relationship, a friendship, sends a good person into your life. And what do we do in response? We reject it because it
right,
is so foreign. It's
right.
too good to be
To
true.
be true.
Self
Yeah, yeah,
sabotage.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, yes. Yeah, yeah. I
So
stayed in
talk on that,
a
gentlemen.
yeah, I stayed in a marriage for almost 20 years that I knew was toxic from the dating portion of our relationship. Even how we ended up married was it was like it was forced. Neither one of us were ready, but it was an image thing that made her be like, we need to do it now or we're over. So I mean, from that ultimatum, like that's toxic. Why are you trying to force me into something that neither one of us are ready for?
Right.
And then I stayed in that relationship, like I said, for almost 20 years of my life,
Mm.
knowing that it was terrible, knowing that it was terrible.
Well,
But- but-
you don't want me to go into that one.
I mean, why not? We're here.
Ooh, ooh.
Yeah,
Hold on, what was that? What was that?
right,
Fill me
seven.
in.
34.
Yeah.
34. And I
Okay.
can't I gotta be clean here and take some accountability and responsibility because
Yeah, I mean,
you can't push that off on it was
yeah,
a
it's cool.
18 and a 16-year-old getting married under duress because we were pregnant. I mean, that wasn't why we got married, but her family didn't want me, my family didn't want her. So it was all the stress and trauma going on. Two young, broken individuals who grew up in traumatic households, who number one hadn't dealt with their own personal trauma. Now you bring
Right.
that trauma together as a couple with adding the stress of a child at that young age, no education, no jobs. I mean, we just started out on the wrong foot. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a blessing that we made it to 34 years, but man, I'm a totally different man coming out of that experience now. I've learned
Yeah.
so much and grown so much from that experience that it just blows my mind when I sit back and reflect sometimes. But so what do we do, guys, as men when we catch ourselves? As I just talked about, I had to catch myself. We have made mistakes as
Yeah.
men. I mean, we can sit here on here and blame some of the ladies, all day long, but
Right.
you
It's
know,
dual. Both
yeah,
sides.
men and as men, it's dual, correct. I agree. But as men, I feel like we got to lead. The word says we have to lead. So if we're going to correct this, how do we do that? I pivoted. I recognized I had to, and that was painful. I had to stop and pause, look in the mirror, reflect back. I messed up here. I messed up
Hmm.
here. I messed up here. And I had to systematically go back, dissect myself, and rebuild myself in all those areas that I had
Yeah.
failed so that I wouldn't push that trauma off onto the next person.
Right.
And then also recognize that this is now my past and I deserve to be loved.
Right.
I deserve a healthy, fruitful relationship and to be in a place now where I can accept that and receive it and see it when it comes. I don't run from it anymore. Remember, I talked about that. Now I can receive it and accept it and flourish in that. What does that look like? How do y'all feel about that?
Well, I mean, you hit the key word when you say rebuild.
Yeah.
Um, that is the first thing that we are to do as men is to build. And
Yeah.
so when we're talking about,
Called to build. Yeah.
Right.
absolutely. And so when we say that, we're looking for a woman, why are we looking for a woman before we've built a foundation? That's the number one problem. When we say the word marriage, if we say the full phrase, it's marriage proposal, correct?
Hmm.
Hmm.
And
Right.
so when we think of marriage proposal, we think of love and getting down on one knee and this fuzzy feeling in our hearts
Yeah.
and all of those things. But when we think about a business proposal, what word comes to mind? A plan.
Right. A
Where are we
plan
going?
and compromise.
Yeah, where are we going? What are we doing? How are we doing it? And what foundation is it built on? And
Right.
so as men, if we haven't built a foundation, there's no need for us to go and be seeking a proposal to make. We don't have a
Right.
plan. It's most men, we don't have a plan. What we have are feelings and emotions. We have
Right.
sexual energy and drive, and that can carry us so far. But at
Right.
some point, there has to be a plan. There has to be a foundation, and we have to be
Right.
building something. And
Okay.
so I believe that
You have
yes,
to be on
go
the
ahead.
Hold
same
on.
page.
Yeah, I want to pause there for me for a second. I want to throw this in that space of what you just said, because so many women say, "I want a man who is a provider." But in my research in this new healing journey, the journey of a warrior, I've learned that a provider is more than just financial. I think the
Right.
provider starts where you just left off,
Hmm.
that you have a plan.
Right.
Doesn't mean you have to be have achieved and be at the end of that plan. But if you are moving forward, working towards that plan, you have goals, you have dreams,
Actively.
and you're actively moving forward. I love the word progressive, meaning
Hmm.
moving always. I tell men
Right.
always be progressive, meaning move forward and upward. I think
Right.
as long as a man is progressive, he is a provider.
Right.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
Agree.
And
I
so,
agree.
like we talk about women, there's this whole conversation on social media about a man needing to make so much money or have
Right,
this
right.
or have that. But we see in everyday life that that isn't true, or Pookie and Ray Ray wouldn't have so many baby mamas, right? So we, we, we know that's not true. We know that's not true.
We know
I
that's not
believe
true.
what a lot of women are really saying, if we decode it, is I want to see a man that has a plan. I want to see a man that has vision. And I want to see a man who's building
Who's
something.
working the
They
plan?
just right, and they believe that the money and the things that they see is evidence of a man who has a plan.
Working the plan. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so, that's what we have to teach our boys. There's this theory that I really, really, really love. It's the four quarters of life. And it's very accurate because life expectancy is like 79 and a half, just like 80 years old.
Yeah.
And so just like a basketball game or any other game, it's usually four quarters. And so if we split
Right.
that up, 0 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 60, 60 to 80, you almost can't. There are too many of us men who are in our third quarter, that there are things that we didn't build upon on our
Yes,
first
sir.
and second quarter. And so some of us have to just stop and go back,
Right.
like, hold on, wait a minute,
Hmm.
what did I miss? And like Coach G said, we have to
Rebuild.
rebuild.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
Mhm.
we have to rebuild and get to
All
the place
areas.
that we
All
should be
areas.
in all areas.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and so there's just that point of transparency, being honest with ourselves. Am I really ready to move forward with the relationship? If not, we
Right.
have to learn how to be okay in our singleness. A lot of people can't do that, right?
Right. Right.
Instead of healing, I know one thing that I did. I'd never healed. Like, if it was like, hey, this didn't work out, my heart is broken. Let me hand these broken pieces to her. Let her try to put them
Put
together.
it
Oops, she
together.
couldn't do it. Let me hand them over to her.
Right. Man.
And really, what
Yep.
I needed to do was sit down, pick up the pieces, and rebuild
Right.
on my own,
Right.
develop a vision and a plan, and then
Right.
seek the woman that would come in and help me build.
Mm,
Yay. Say that. Say
mm.
that, brother. Yes, sir.
Man, so
Yes,
that
sir.
actually piques my interest in what you just said, because that actually, I'm gonna pivot here on you again, leads me into another point on sexual trauma. Sexual
Well,
trauma, because as you just articulated, for men, if it's not substance abuse, it's sexual abuse.
Yes.
So you're hurting, you're broken, you're finding out these things about yourself, and we pivot into that space.
Yeah.
Talk to me about sexual trauma.
Well, I believe that we turn to sex because it's easy. Just like you said, drugs, it's easy.
it's
It's
easy.
ease. We
Right.
don't want to do the work. And so rebuilding yourself, there's so much
Mhm.
work involved with that, so much
Right.
uncovering and
Yeah,
unpacking and having to be
Right.
yeah,
honest and all that. It's like, you know what? Let me just cut to the chase. We're searching for endorphins. We're looking for that
yeah,
high.
yeah,
And sex
Yes.
gives us that
yeah.
Yep.
relatively easy. And so
Yep.
a lot of men who are unfulfilled in other areas, we fill it by filling a woman.
Sex.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Right. We
would
Yep.
try
you
to
say
fill
we're numbing
ourselves by filling
ourselves?
her.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
a form of numbing ourselves,
Yeah.
And
or
it's a win.
masking.
I want to win. I want to feel strong. I want to feel like the
Right.
man. I want to feel adored. I want to feel loved. And it gives us that feeling, even if it's momentarily, but it
Right.
gives us that feeling in an easy, way that doesn't take years to get to. It's like, hey, I can feel great here in the next
Instant
however
gratification.
long. Exactly.
And I think the sad part of that is we don't recognize the implications that come with sex, that the soul ties that are created, and
Yes.
especially if that woman that you're engaging
Spiritual
with is
marriage.
broken. So yeah, that's that. So you talk about sexual trauma, you got to also talk about spiritual trauma, because
Oh,
there's an exchange that's going on in that process between that man and the woman. And if you've multiplied that, multiple women, you trying to put feathers in the cap. You know how the brothers are doing, man.
right. Right.
So
Notches under the
now,
belt.
right now you've infected yourself. You were already broken. And to AL's point, you're trying to find this woman who can put all the pieces together for you. But now you're just, I mean, just look at that. It's a mess.
Hmm.
It's a cesspool of all kinds of different traumas now that are residing in one person. Now
And,
you're
and,
really
uh,
messed up.
and then here's the part.
And
It
pass
goes
back and
back to
forth.
trust again. It goes back to trust because now
Yep.
when you've been the player and I have my moment, I have my time.
I have my time.
Um, there's a few things with that. As being a player, you probably possibly had situations where you dealt with a woman that you know was in a relationship. So now when you do find, like you said, you do find your good thing, you don't even
Right.
trust her because you're like, I don't know. I don't know about
I
you,
messed up.
man. I know, and so now it like creates this paranoia. Even when we listen to our music, right?
Yeah.
R&B is some of the most damaging music when it's supposed
Come
to be
on.
about love and
Yes.
connection.
Yes.
But if you
Right.
listen to the words, listen, I was in the gym the other day. I had my headphones on, and so sometimes I listen to everything. I listen to a little rap, I listen to a gospel, I listen to R&B, I listen to everything. So it hit the gospel part of, or not gospel, I'm sorry, R&B. And remember that song, Joe, All the Things Your Man Won't Do?
Mhm.
If you
Yes.
listen to every part of that song except
It's
that,
really
you would
messed
think this
up.
is a woman that like this is his wife. Like he's got to be talking about
Right.
his wife. I'm gonna take you on a night cruise on a yacht.
Right.
Just you got a lot
Right.
to look
You
forward
can't
to. I
do.
want all that, right? And then you realize, like, wait a minute, he's
Talking about
talking about
somebody else's
somebody
lady.
else's somebody else's woman, right? And so you can't even have a romantic moment with your woman without these
Right.
suggestive thoughts of saying, hey, do not trust her, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then you have the other part is when you have so many sexual partners, it comes to a point of comparison now. So now it's another
Oh,
reason that makes it hard to love because you're looking for her to jump through the hoops that the other women jump through.
right.
Like,
Right.
you don't quite do it. So
Why
now,
won't you do?
yeah, well, it's like it makes it too important in the relationship because she could
Mm-hmm.
be the perfect woman in all areas, but she just doesn't make it happen like this other one. But if
Right.
we went by the Bible and you only had that one, you don't
Right.
have that comparison to say, well, hey,
Right.
I know what's out there. My eyes are open. I've bitten the apple. So,
Right.
yeah, that literally destroys families and relationships just by us having too many to compare to.
Right.
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 See, my song, since you're throwing songs out there, would be Usher's Bad Habit. So I'm learning, become a
Lord.
worshiper.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
it's crazy that the song that resonates, and it's because of the beat,
right.
mind you.
Mhm.
I had to actually pause and be like, dang, I'm dancing to this song because he's talking about cheating. He gets in a relationship.
Yeah.
Oh, what you just said. Oh, no,
But
she don't work, or she's not like the one I dropped back here. Let me go back to her for a minute, and then I get my eye caught on this one. So
Right.
even
you
if we
know,
go old school, let's go old school. Earth, Wind, and Fire. And the reason I go old school because we always say, "Oh, back in the day, hey, they were
Oh,
wholesome and good." So, what about my homeboys
in what
pointing it out
world?
to me? That was one of the biggest wedding songs, 70s, 80s reasons. The reasons that
Oh,
we live,
yes.
reason that song was about a one night stand,
Yes.
and people were getting
Yep.
married to
Right.
it. So,
Gene, what's your song, man? Since we
Uh,
pushing it out there, what is your song? Oh, he cracks me. His dog.
oh
his
man,
dog.
yeah,
His dog wants to get on the show.
exactly. He know what we're talking about.
Right. He's like, stop telling my business.
Right, right.
sit down. You know what? I can't even think of one right now. If you would have asked me a different time, then I would have been able to do it.
Okay.
Up, 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 up. Go, Lord, these dogs. But yeah, there's a lot of it in the. I can't think of one right now. That's but there was a lot of like innuendos in music where it's like you have like it's supposed to be about love, but it's something totally. Oh, my girlfriend was in here. She'd be able to tell me one.
Look, you're my little secret escape.
Okay,
Remember
there we go. Yes, and that's how we should keep
uh,
it.
AL, how do you know all the songs, bro?
Bruh, hey,
What you been doing?
I'm a music connoisseur. I was saying that I'm a music connoisseur. So
Yeah,
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 for sure. But yeah, I mean, we're being programmed by that, and then we
Right,
see it
right,
reflected in the real world,
right.
and then oh my goodness. So I was talking to a lady. I don't even want to give the relation. I was talking to a lady, and she said, "Well, you know, it's hard to find a good man. It's just so hard to find a good man." And I said, "Well, where do you tend to meet them at?" I mean, you know, when I go to the club or when I now I'm not saying that
yeah.
all men I'm not saying that all men that go to the club are bad.
The
I'm not
dog
definitely
pound.
not saying that. But for the type of man that she describes that she wants, I'm like,
Right,
it sounds like you need to be going to like community events, you
right.
know, maybe like somewhere
A
where the heart
two-step class.
a two-step class, something like that. And
Something
so,
like
you
that.
know, to just kind of further the conversation, it's like, where do we start these relationships? Because a lot of times that can be telling. Like,
Right,
Yeah,
right.
are we finding women at the club that are, you know, we're having drinks, a little tipsy? Is that where we're
yeah,
starting? Is that the
right,
starting
right,
point? Or,
right,
is it something wholesome and productive, and then you're able to
right.
actually naturally flow and develop into a
And
connection in a relationship?
get to know the person
You get to know
and
the
not
person.
get caught up in the vibe because that's what
Yeah.
alcohol and music provides together. They provide
Right,
a vibration
right.
that makes you feel amorous. So then there's you see this person, you got your beer goggles on, they fine as hell.
Right,
You
right.
take Shorty home.
Yeah, and it's either home then, or when you do have that conversation on the phone, you ain't talking about getting to know them. It's like, when can we Netflix and chill? You know,
Right, right.
and that's
They called
right,
it
right.
Netflix. Did you coin a new thing, Netflix and chill?
No,
Oh
that's
man, no,
old. That's
no, that's the
old,
thing.
bro.
That's the
I ain't
thing.
heard that one, boy.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, so
yeah.
can we Netflix and chill? And so now
Right,
again, like we go to the chemical system in the brain,
Right,
like you
right.
are
yeah.
starting off the relationship literally high, literally and
Yes,
figuratively high between alcohol, the environment, the
right.
euphoria, and then you go right into
Endorphins.
sex,
Yep.
endorphins, high. You haven't even touched the real world yet. So
Right,
there are people that
right,
literally get together and they're in a relationship and committed before they even see each other for the first time.
First time,
right.
right.
Truly, yeah. So my
Are you,
song, I just thought of a song. It's the
oh,
song. It's her featuring Michelle and Davey Cello. It's called Better Than I
oh,
Imagined. It's called
yes.
Better
I
Than
got
I
plugged up.
Imagined. Oh, it's a
Okay.
great
Yes.
song. But the funniest thing is, it's about a toxic relationship. It's like I
Mhm.
know we're not good for each other, but the love that we've shared is better than I imagined. So I'm gonna keep coming back to something that's toxic. Listen to the song. You'll
Yeah.
like it, but it's
No,
jacked up.
Wow.
It's jacked up.
it's so funny, bro, that you said that because when I was going through reconciliation with my ex-wife now, um, that was one of the songs that she sent me that really touched my heart.
Wow.
We're going
Wow.
back and forth listening to the song, probably again because of the beat, and we wanted to two-step, and I was
Right.
intimate and two-stepping. But I did that. I went back and reflected like I did with Usher's Bad Habit. And I'm like,
Mhm.
seriously, am I listening to this stuff?
Right.
And then
And then what?
I'm expecting change in the relationship.
And then so then
How about that
we're
song?
toxic. They're toxic. We come together, don't know each other, and then we create a super toxic baby.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
and then that's the cycle though. That's the
Hmm.
cycle because
Yep.
we're not getting ready to stay together. We don't even know each other.
All right, so
Exactly.
I got to pivot again because I'm looking at our clock. Got to pivot
Oh,
again. So you know me, Gene. So you lead in this one, and then let AL
yeah.
jump in there. I'm all about root cause. You got to get to the root cause of everything, and I would say all the things that we've talked about today, especially with men, and we're talking about black and brown men. We can't leave today's discussion without talking about race-related trauma, which for me, in my opinion, is the core of all of this, because
Yeah.
that's what, in my opinion, has wrecked the black man.
Yeah.
what the ramifications of what slavery has done, and then you
Yes.
have post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Right.
So we've already proven from a scientific perspective that in our genetics, that's that pain, that rage, that anger, that
Yeah.
humiliation, all those
Reverberates.
negative feelings are still resident in a man in 2024.
Yeah.
So speak on that, gentlemen.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead, brother.
No, you go ahead first. You go ahead first.
Um, so there's two parts, and that one, the reason I jumped out, I apologize. Like I had a lot of that type of trauma. Um,
Yeah.
I
what you
know we
spoke
all in this
to,
circle have, yeah.
yeah, man, like that hit me. So there's the epigenetic trauma, the trauma that's passed down from our ancestors.
Right.
There's actually a physical reaction in a woman in her
Yep.
womb that she literally passes on her stress
Yep.
to the next generation, literally.
Right.
So we have that, but
Scientifically proven.
Yep.
scientifically proven. For me personally, I did not grow up with money at all. To the point where, like I said, my mother raised me on her own. We didn't have a car until my junior year, and so we were always catching rides, and so no car until about my junior year. The reason I start with that is because I actually went to a private Christian school that was 95% white, and they
Oh
had me.
wow.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
my
there was like,
experience.
Yeah.
yeah, so there was like racial trauma and financial trauma, um, and church
And
hurt
one.
because it was just all rolled into one. It was just this big
All in the
toxic
one.
bubble of church hurt because okay, we're all supposed to be Christian.
Right.
There was financial trauma because y'all got money and I don't.
I don't.
Spiritual
Right.
trauma.
Spiritual trauma, the fatherhood trauma, because again, these
Yeah.
homes they had money, two-parent households. So, father's there, he's popping up, the Father's Day events, I don't have my father. And then we go into the race trauma. And so I'm as y'all can see, I'm not the lightest skinned brother on the panel. We're pretty
Are
much
you
anywhere I
sure?
go for the most part. And so I remember vividly sitting in the back of the classroom. The teacher was talking about the color spectrum, rainbow color spectrum and all that. And why did she? I'm telling you, I used to dread anytime color would come up because I knew that at some point black was gonna come up, right? And so, and so she said, white reflects light, therefore it reflects heat. So, if on a hot day you want to wear white
Right.
because
Right.
yeah, it's gonna
It
reflect.
bounces it off.
And black absorbs heat.
So,
Why did the whole class
Guys,
turn
turn around and look
around?
at you.
Bro, and what happened? I felt the heat. I started breaking a sweat, which made it 10 times worse because they're like, oh man, and then
That takes you right back into childhood trauma.
right back in
right.
childhood trauma, right? And so then, not only do you have that element because we say right, but then there's still like I'm saying interracial, like within our own race,
Right. The
Yeah.
skin
Right.
we
color difference.
traumatize each other,
Right.
Oh.
you
Right.
know.
Hmm.
And so, depending on being on the darker end of the spectrum of blackness, I've experienced trauma from other black people
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
for being too black. Right? And
Right.
so, like that racial trauma, man, it definitely runs deep. And so I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, I experienced something similar with white and black people. For instance, I used to have to fight a lot. It was dark skinned brothers who thought that I thought I was pretty because I'm light skinned. I'm like, bro, I'm broke as hell. My mama makes my clothes.
Hmm.
I wasn't able to buy my own clothes until I was like 16.
Yes.
So I'm broke as hell wearing these busted ass Walmart sweatpants and shit. and you don't know
You're
that,
the tough skins. You're the tough skins.
man, tough skin.
You could
And
not
then,
tear those jeans up.
man. So I'm dealing with that with my own people, and then getting treated funny by white people who I grew up mostly in South Carolina. So think about it. That's South Carolina, one of the slave ports. So you're
Mhm.
dealing with the mentality of all black people are beneath white people in this particular uh, state. So
Mhm.
I'm dealing with that, being treated like I think I'm better than everybody because I'm light skinned, and then the white people are like, oh, you a nigga. So I don't care about your feelings or you're not smart. They only like you when you sing, when you play sports. It's the only time they like you, and that's how I always got treated. I went to a private school, 7th and 12th grade. Um, I'm sorry, 11th and 12th grade. The white people did not. The people in my class, there was only other one black person in that class. She was lighter than me. They liked her because she talked and acted white. I wasn't gonna do that. I'm not about to whitewash myself to make you feel happy or
Right.
safe. Um, so they hated me. They tried to leave me in North Carolina. We went on a senior trip. They tried to leave me there.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. But they only liked me when I played basketball
Hey,
or any
look,
sport that helped them.
I experienced the same thing.
Yeah.
So when it comes to dating and all that, it's a lot of it is proximity,
Right.
right? And
Mhm.
so, I what, sixth, seventh grade, somewhere in there. There was a white girl that I had a big crush on, and we would talk on the phone and all this kind of stuff. So we like talked on the phone all the time with her, and it was cool. But I guess it was because the parents didn't realize it; they didn't know, and
You were
so
black.
they just didn't. I don't think they even knew we were talking on the phone at all, right?
Wow.
And so it was funny because they would come to the games and all that, and go Andrew, because I played basketball too. I played basketball, ran track, all
Yeah.
that, and so go Andrew. Like they loved sports, the parents did. So I always heard them as affirming me all the time until
Mhm.
one day we're talking on the phone. All of a sudden, our mom picks up the phone. So this is old school landline.
Right.
Pick
Right.
up the phone. Andrew, I was like, whoa, hi. Yes. She said, we don't like this. I was like what? And she was like, look, we don't want our daughter talking to a black guy. And I'm like, ain't you the one to be in the stands? Like, hey, go Andrew
How,
all the time. She's
mhm.
like, yeah, but you're gonna have to get off the phone with my daughter. Right? So,
Wow.
Bro,
and then I
this is
remember, yeah,
go ahead.
no, just real quick. So then I told my mom, I'm like, Mom, because I'm sad, of course, And so, I told her what happened or whatever. She was like, wait a minute, that's not right. This is a Christian school. We shouldn't be doing that. There shouldn't be any division in that way. So she calls the mother back. What do? I run downstairs, landline, pick it up. I'm listening in. So my mom, she's like, we are Christians and why would you do that? This, and she was like, look, I get all that, but it ain't happening in our house. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah. They're just a memory. I just want to throw it on the table.
I
That's what I'm
have
saying.
this is crazy. So
And
crazy because I have the exact same memory
wow.
where I was dating this girl or about to start, or was starting to date this girl. Her parents, I would talk to them on the phone, and other parents would say, "Oh my God, it's so awesome that your daughter is dating Gary," and they're reading articles about me in the paper and stuff like this. They had never seen a picture, never seen me in person. So dad jumps on the phone one day, the landline, and invites me to Sunday dinner. And I'm telling, hey, I'm a Christian. I got to go to church with my family. But when I get home from church, I'll be happy to come over for dinner. So they adjust their schedule. Black church, we in church all day.
Yep.
All day.
All
All
day.
day. So I get home, I've set up this arrangement. Dad comes to the door. He recognizes my voice. Dad comes to the door. I knock on the door. Dad comes to the door and I extend my hand. Hi, sir. I'm Gary Newsom. He knows my voice, but then
Mhm.
it registers with him. Oh my God, my daughter's dating a black guy. You talking about the most awkward dinner. And then within about 3-4 days later, we were supposed to go on a double date with my boy and his girl, which was her best friend. And I'm like, where's she at? I get there. I'm like, where's she at? The girl's, my girlfriend's or my boy's girlfriend, her mom had to pull me aside and tell me the story that she's not coming. Her mom and dad don't want her to date you. And if she tried to continue, they're going to send her off to North Carolina with her auntie. So exact same story.
Wow. That's
Wow.
crazy.
Mm-mm-mm. Hey, we good enough to play ball, but
Right.
There we go. There we go. Well, sing a song for you. We can sing a song for you.
there you go. There you
So
go.
you probably got that in several ways, Gene, because I know you were
Oh
an athlete
yeah.
and singer and dancer, musician, all that
Right.
stuff. So
Right. I do not dance.
oh,
I'm not a
okay,
dancer. I
okay,
cannot dance. I think the Irish came in on that part because
okay.
I just don't have it.
Well, we're gonna have to bring you to Kansas City and teach you a two-step.
There we go. There we
There you
go.
go. There you go.
Hey, well, brothers, we are over our time. I thought Mark would probably pop in here, but
Well, that went by
man,
quick.
what?
Yeah, it did. It
Yeah, it did.
did.
What a conversation.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. AL, are you available next weekend?
I
Same
think
bat time, same bat channel.
so. Yeah. Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay, so
Awesome.
Gene, because next week is supposed to be our panel discussion, so we got to pull together a panel to go through all this. And in the panel, we'll have some females, so that's
Right.
going to be interesting to have their perspective on these points. So we're probably, probably around 6 of us in this room.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a powerful discussion. So, Gene, if that's okay, I would love to
Yeah,
invite
absolutely.
AL back to be a part of our
Please,
discussion
please come back. Please
Thank
come
you.
next
back.
week,
Thank you.
because
Yeah.
you were a powerhouse with us tonight, and
Yeah.
you know what? It felt
Absolutely.
like family and brotherhood.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree.
Right.
So this was so good, man. I appreciate you, Gene, my brother,
Hey.
my partner,
You too. You
co-host, and
too.
then
Yeah.
my new brother in
Right.
AL. He has been
Sure.
so instrumental in my life already, and just knowing that God is saving the best for last. I see,
Oh
just
yeah.
like with Gene, I see this. What's so powerful for me right now is the biblical Jonathan David relationship, that you can have a powerful relationship with another man, which is healthy.
Yeah.
Right.
We
Right.
In
need it.
today's society would be like, oh man, they gay or they got something going on. No, man, this is the biblical example in 2024 of
Hmm.
2 black men engaging each other in deep relationship, friendship,
Right.
lifting each other up, iron sharpening iron.
That's
So
Right.
it.
Right.
that's my
Exactly.
closing thought. I want to honor both of you as my brothers. I love y'all both. I
Love you back.
glean from you both. I'm so blessed. I'm a better man because both of you men are in my life. So those are my closing
Appreciate you.
thoughts and words. AL, I say you jump in there, and then Gene, close us out, my man.
Hey,
Nah,
no,
no
I just
problem.
want to say thanks for having me. I'm happy to join the brotherhood. Uh, I'm glad to meet you, Gene. I can see we already have a lot in
Thank you so
common,
much.
so I can't wait to
Yeah,
hear more about you and
Yeah.
your
Right.
story and some more similarities. But
he's
as
a
you said,
powerhouse.
oh, I see it. I see it clearly,
I
clearly.
appreciate that.
Well, it is about iron sharpening iron, and that's
Yeah.
what we do here. And I just love the transparency. Like you said, man, I feel like I've known you all forever just in this
Right.
this hour that we've been talking. Like I don't even want to get off. I'm like, that is the
Right.
fastest hour I've had all week.
Did it
Right.
So
not blow by?
yeah, that just went by so quick, and I love the way the
Yeah.
conversation flows. So I'm excited to not only be here today, but to come back in the future and chop it up with you guys some more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I just want to
Absolutely.
real quick before you go, Gene. I want to recognize our guest, Arya, is jumping in and saying hi. So we just want to say
Nice.
hello. We're waving at you. Thank you for joining us. You kind of caught us at the end, so you might have to catch the replay. But what a show for you to pop into.
Oh yeah.
I think you're going to be blessed. Make sure you share and like and share. Pass it to your
Yeah.
friends, because this is such an explosive and powerful conversation. Gene, you got the floor,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Yeah, so again, I want to just reiterate the fact that I appreciate both of you, brother. Just obviously, Gary and we have known each other for a while, and I always know I can count on you. Anytime anything is going on, I know I can always count on you, and I feel the same energy from you, AL. So
Mhm.
it's a blessing to be in the presence of such powerful, amazing, intelligent black men who are awake and aware. Like that, that is a blessing. It's rare.
Yeah.
So I want to encourage our audience, men and women, always be about change. The only constant in life is change. And when it comes to forgiveness, allow yourself to be open enough to make the first step.
Mm,
Spread your arms, open your arms up, allow your heart to be exposed. You
mm,
know, is un, un, this as disconcerting as it can be to be vulnerable to another person. There's a lot of strength in that. Find strength in vulnerability. It's a beautiful thing that we have
mm,
taught to run away from, but embrace being vulnerable, embrace being soft, because if you're too hard, you break. Think about a tree, an oak tree. A storm comes through and it's stiff, and eventually the wind breaks it, but bamboo bends in the wind, and when the wind stops, it comes right back up. So let's
Mm-hmm.
be that bamboo. Let's allow ourselves to be vulnerable and understand that that's part of our strength. So
I
Man,
love
that's
that.
rich.
I love
That's
that.
so
Yeah.
rich, man. I appreciate that. Man, guys, I don't know about y'all, but next week
yeah, it's gonna be crazy.
you got the three of us in a room and we add, maybe
Right,
five more people. Oh
right.
my word,
Yeah, it's
which
gonna be
now
crazy.
we're gonna have a female perspective to this. Oh
Yeah,
geez.
yeah, yeah.
Gene, you want me to go get Evie again?
Yes, yes, please. Yes, please. And can you get Izzy?
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay. So you
James.
say again?
Is it her partner James? What's her partner's name?
James, yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
can ask for James.
yeah.
I actually was going to bring in Izzy's husband.
Please,
See
please.
Dave, if Dave's available too. So because they are a couple whose relationship was built on trauma, and when we get to relationship trauma, boy, will they have some nuggets to
Oh
speak to
yeah,
the audience on how to overcome a relationship within trauma, overcoming those traumas. So it's just
nice,
beautiful watching them. So
nice.
where's
I
Mark? I'm
like that
sure
light you got on there, brother. That chocolate skin is glistening over there now. I like that. Give me some light like that. Make my light skin is bling blow.
uh,
Man.
Yeah, Mark is saying we got to wrap. So I thought, Mark, why don't you just pop in and say goodbye to everybody for us? You've been quiet, and I know you were at the family reunion, so we don't want to interrupt that. But if you got a minute, just pop in here, speak to the people, and greet AL, and take us out. I don't know if he's listening. It was loud where he was at. I couldn't hear.
Oh yeah.
he's eating good. He's eating good,
Yeah,
enjoying family.
Right.
he
You
might
know,
he might have
but
he might have the itis right now.
Right, right. That's it.
yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. What a show, man. I'm full. I'm full. Y'all bless me,
Yeah,
man.
and I'll be seeing you live and in living color here in a couple of hours, Gary.
Right.
Yes.
And until Mark jumps in, talk about what I got to experience with you today, this
Oh,
morning,
so
men's
yeah,
breakfast conference. Yeah.
yeah. So every month we have a breakfast. We call it the Man Cave Prayer Breakfast. We have that every second Saturday of the month. It's where men get together. We pick a topic. We'll generally have a speaker and then some open conversation as well as networking. Again, that iron sharpening iron concept.
Oh
But
yeah.
today was actually our men's conference. And so for the conference, we had a speaker by the name of Dr. Ryan Harvey. He had a powerful message about letting go of things to make room for new. The analogy he used was amazing. We also had financial literacy provided by Bank Midwest. We had blood pressure
Nice.
screenings, health information, fitness information, trauma informed care. And what was the other breakout session? Oh, gosh, we had a therapist that was there by the name of Caleb Adegoke.
Oh, he was so
And
good.
man, when I tell you, he broke it down for us. I mean, it was
Man.
beautiful. And so yeah, that was this morning. We do it 100% free of charge. We don't want any barriers to entry, and so we all, we broke bread together. So we fed ourselves physically, and then we were able to feed ourselves mentally and spiritually. There was almost like no seats left in the room. I mean, it was full, and so to see that many men that were there wanting to learn, heal, and grow it was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
appreciate the invitation, man. It was powerful, and I want to be part of the tribe. So
Yeah.
You are.
wherever y'all roll, I'm rolling. So here's Mark.
I was 22 or 19. Who told you that? Yeah, no.
Well, you can tell we got all kinds of conversation in the background, but I'm wrapping it up and wrapping y'all up and everything. But just a few folks upstairs, the rest of them are downstairs. But it's time for y'all to end it in this conversation. But a great conversation and all on those lines. So definitely it'll be a great time and everything. So I know y'all having a good time, and I was enjoying what y'all were teaching about that nail bonding and all along those lines. So definitely something we talk about all the time. time. And AJ, it was a pleasure, or AL, a pleasure to meet you and everything. So I'm looking forward to going back and watching the conversation and hearing what you're all about. But yeah, we talk about a lot of bonding and even stuff like that, even when family gets together. So like I said, I've only got a few of the members up here now and everything. So I've got one of my cousins and some second cousins and others. So you probably hear them in the background, but we got about 20 or 30 downstairs. So it's been a good family outing and all along those lines. So yeah, a whole lot of people, so a whole lot of family. So get ready to get down there and see them and everything along those lines. So definitely great having this conversation with y'all, and looking forward to seeing you again. Hopefully we'll see you back, Mr. Johnson, on another show and everything along those lines, because definitely it's just been good bonding. As a matter of fact, one of the brothers came all the way down from Flint, Michigan. So that's actually who they're doing, is talking to each other right now and everything. So it's been good conversations. I'm going to go out with this mental health bonding and all along those lines. So I might even tease them and everything and all along those lines. So if you hold on just 1 second, because Tiny's going to probably tease me for giving her a hard time. So everybody wave at the guys and everything. So everybody wave at the guys at the end of the show. So everybody wave at the guys and everything.
Hey, guys, are the two guys?
Yeah. Like I said, there's a bunch of other ones downstairs, but I appreciate y'all and doing this show. So I'm getting ready to get back to the rest of the family and all along those lines. So y'all have a good time, and I will catch y'all on next Saturday. Coach G, I'll see you on Tuesday with Unbreakable. I mean, with the Misfit Manners. Yeah, I'll see you on then. So right now I'm ready to get out with this mental health break and this mental health commercial. But we get ready to get on out of here. But it's good that y'all had this in-depth conversation. So appreciate y'all.
And and then one of the cousin nieces came and got me, and
stay on, AL.
Well, I couldn't read it, but by the one room, and then the one room was
just about everyone at one point has had an idea for a product, but the path for making that idea happen is full of challenges. Trying to find the solution makes the process even more complicated and overwhelming. With all the world's advances, we've realized that there must be a smarter, more affordable, and easier way to make your idea spring to life. That's where Gizmo Spring takes action. Imagine a professional team of industrial designers, engineers, sourcing professionals, branding designers with our state-of-the-art self-owned manufacturing facility working side by side just for you. Your very own complete design and manufacturing workforce with factory direct pricing. Whether you need design or engineering help, product sourcing, manufacturing, or just functional prototypes for your big pitch, Gizmo Spring is your one-stop partner to make your ideas happen faster and more affordable than ever before. For more information, contact us at info@gizmospring.com.
We are sending you signals every day.
We are sending you signals every day.
We're sending you signals every day.
We're sending you signals every day.
I'll be feeling sad, but you're too busy to notice.
We are sending you signals every day.
I'll tell you that I'm feeling afraid,
but you'll just tell me everything's okay.
I'll get real angry about something, but you'll take it personally.
We are sending you signals every day. My grades will drop.
And you'll yell at me for not trying.
I stopped caring about how I look.
And you didn't even notice.
We are sending you signals every day.
I don't see my friends anymore.
And you think it's good that I'm always home.
We are sending you signals every day.
I'll tell you, I wish I could go to sleep and never wake up.
And you tell me to stop staying up so late.
We are sending you signals every day.
I need you to look.
I need you to listen.
And ask me if you can help.